no, no. No, 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 no.
Hey y'all, this is the Pleasure and Peace Practice, and I'm your host, Tia, your Pleasure and Peace practitioner. For those of you who may be new here, welcome. This is a space where your pleasure is not optional and your peace is sacred. Each episode, we explore things that are real, raw, and I hope restorative. Through honest conversation, evidence-based practice, and an abundance of permission, I encourage you to feel good. Whether you're here to reconnect with your body, unlearn harmful shame, or just take a breath, you belong here. Welcome in. Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm your host, Tia Conway, your mental health and sex education bestie. Today, we're building on a listener-submitted question from last episode around fantasies and non-consensual sex. This episode, we are diving into something foundational to not just sexual pleasure, but all relationships, understanding power and play. We're going to talk about how dynamics of power show up in our intimate lives, how they influence pleasure, and yes, how this ties into BDSM. By the end of this episode, you'll have tools to identify your preferences, communicate your boundaries, and explore play safely. So, grab your journal, a beverage, and let's get into it. Before we talk about play, we have to understand power. Power isn't just something in politics or boardrooms. It's everywhere, including in our relationships, our friendships, and our bedrooms. Power dynamics are the ways in which people influence, guide, or yield to each other. And here's the thing, power is neutral, neither good nor bad. It just is. It's just energy, right? I know that some of you might have heard of BDE, right? Big dick energy, or SDE, small dick energy. That's the same thing. Kind of a fun example. It just is, it's just power, neither good or bad. Well, that's, up for debate, but I'm saying I don't think it's good or bad. It just is. Okay. So, for example, you might naturally take the lead when planning date nights or decide who controls the TV remote. That's power. Another example might be someone might defer to you because they trust your judgment. Also, power. In sexual contexts or pleasure-centric, pleasure-focused contexts, power shows up as who initiates, who guides, and who surrenders. Yes, some people do explore this through BDSM. That's just one structured way to safely play with power. Take a moment and reflect. Where do you feel most in control in your life, day to day? Where do you feel like you're yielding? No judgment, just observation. This awareness is the first step to really understanding your pleasure blueprint. Now that we've talked a little bit about power, let's talk about play. Play is about curiosity, creativity, and always consent. When it comes to sexual or intimate play, you're exploring energy, sensations, and trust. Some people enjoy leading. Some people enjoy following. Some people might enjoy switching. So some days you might lead, some days you might follow. There's no wrong answer, only what feels safe and exciting for you. Here's a tip: communication is everything. A simple, hey, I'm curious about trying XYZ. How do you feel about that? Can go a long way. Another tip is establish boundaries. Even if it's just something fun, like a game, it's good to have a safe word or signal and your own limits that help to create trust and safety. Always remember, your boundaries are about you, not about the other person. All right. What's one way you might like to explore more play in your life, sexual or otherwise? What's a boundary I want to make sure is respected before I try something, right? These are questions you could ask yourself. So remember, curiosity and consent equals freedom and pleasure. Some of you might be wondering, what does all this terminology mean? Right? Why are we getting into BDSM stuff? Let's break it down into simple terms. Keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list of all terminology there is, but it'll do for the purposes of this episode. So, a dominant is typically the one who is guiding or leading the situation. This person makes choices that are agreed upon by both parties. So, they're not doing anything non consensual, as we discussed in previous episodes. A submissive is someone who's typically yielding, surrendering, or following. This person trusts the dominant and sets their own limit. Those limits are not set for them. Okay. So they have control over their own situation. A switch is someone who enjoys both or either role, depending on the context, depending on the mood. Here's the important part: these are roles, not personalities. You can be dominant in one context and submissive in another, or neither. It's flexible, it should be playful, and it's always very personal. You could decide to have specific moments where you and your partner or partners play, and only in those moments do you participate in your determined roles. Alternatively, you could decide that this is a lifestyle choice and you always want to be in play or in a scene. And the possibilities are really endless. But remember, you always have a choice and you're always in control. As you consider if you might enjoy one or both of these roles at some point, think about your own energy, right? We're thinking about our pleasure blueprint. Do you feel more drawn to guiding or surrendering in intimate moments? How does that energy show up in other parts of your life? What you do out of the bedroom, out of intimate spaces, is oftentimes what you are going to potentially fallen back into wanting to do in the bedroom and in intimate spaces. Some of you might have heard about how people, some people will say, hey, I can tell how I might enjoy this person intimately based on how they dance or how they eat, right? Um, and these are kind of just funny things. But on some level, I can understand that there might be some truth to it. If someone is very attentive to their food or really on beat or really excitable um, and energized in one situation, it's easy enough to hope or presume that that person would also be attentive or excitable or energetic in another more personal situation. So the main idea is you don't need a dungeon or candles to experience these power dynamics. Power and play exist in everyday life in subtle ways. Negotiating preferences with your partner is what's most important. Choose what brings you joy. Advocate for yourself. Savor alone time rituals that center your body and your mind. Pleasure is not just about sex, right? We've been over this and we'll probably go over it many, many more times. It's about giving yourself permission to enjoy, explore, and receive. Awareness of these power dynamics only enhances that because you know where you feel safe and alive. Today or this week, maybe try and pick one interaction and play with the energy, guide it, or surrender to it intentionally. Observe how it feels in your body. Journal it if you want. I want to recognize that regardless of where you fall on the spectrum in power and play, it's important that you feel secure and confident in your choices. If you find that you are bringing energy into a space as a result of anxiety or stress, this idea you have to perform, then that's not your best self. And you might want to do some inner work before committing to a role with someone else. Remember, this should be fun and feel like an expansion or an extension of you. Now, it's time for our anonymous segment, Whisper in My Ear, a space for your questions, curiosities, and confessions. No shame, no judgment, just real talk and truth. Today's listener submitted inquiry is as follows. I've recently come out as queer or bisexual, and I want to focus solely on the ladies. I have never masturbated regularly and have never made myself come. I'm trying to fix that. I want to give myself an orgasm before I let another hottie give me one. Any tips? Well, to this listener, congratulations on coming out. Good for you. Welcome in. And I am so glad you decided to trust me with your question. So, first, I love that you are wanting to get to know yourself and your body before you start focusing on future partners. I have so many tips. I don't even know where to start. But for the sake of time, I will narrow it down to 3 tips. And of course, if you want more, do not hesitate to let me know by writing back in. Also, if you try any of these and you love them, I would love to know. Please write back in and tell me. Okay, so number one, omgyes.com. I highly recommend it. You pay once and have the subscription for life. Just so you know, I don't get paid whether you do it or not, right? But I just highly recommend it. I get it for free as a therapist, and I often use it with my clients to help them through various things. But you'll learn foundational techniques, ways to explore with a partner, ways to explore with toys, ways to amplify the inevitable orgasms you will achieve. And I just, again, highly recommend it. I promise it's worth it. All right. Number two is bboutique.co. There is nothing wrong with acoustic, but if you're interested in some toys, I swear by the Balesa Boutique. The toys are by women for women. My personal favorite is the Air Vibe, but I'm sure you will find something to love. Okay, my final tip, last but certainly not least, take a deep breath. Give yourself a break. You mentioned that you have never given yourself an orgasm, but you did not mention if others have been able to give you an orgasm. I hope that you have experienced at least one in your life thus far. If you haven't, it's okay. As they say, when you know, you know. We often talk about lube within the context of penetrative sex, but I find it can be really lovely on one as well. My favorite lube, just personally, is Uber Lube. I recognize it can be kind of pricey, but you don't need a lot, and it really is worth it. I am also a big fan of romance novels to help take the edge off. So, you mentioned you want to focus on the ladies. So, my favorite sapphic novels right now are by Ashley Herring Blake. I love her Bright Falls series that starts with Delilah Green Doesn't Care. You might also enjoy Darcy Liao. She has a short story and I believe a novel that just came out. I got early listening for that. It's called Save Room for Love. I listened to it as an audiobook and it was good. Depending on what you like, it was very slow burn, lots of pining, if that's your thing. Ultimately, I hope that you could surrender to the experience of getting to know more of you. And in doing so, whoever you end up with will surely enjoy you too. I cannot, I know I said I would only give you a few tips, but I cannot miss a moment to bring out my 3D vulva. So, another tip, take a look at yourself, girly, right? Golden, beautiful. Play around here. We got the inner labia, we got the outer labia, right? Vagina, urethra, clitoris. Play around a little bit. Get to know yourself. And then that way, when you are able to have a partner or partners, you can feel free to play around with them as well. It won't be your first time seeing a vulva, so you shouldn't be shocked. All right. All right, friends. That's a wrap on today's Foundations of Pleasure. Remember, power is neutral, play is curious, and consent is your best friend. Before you go, if you liked this episode, leave a rating or a review. It helps other pleasure seekers find the show. Follow me on Instagram at Pleasure and Peace with Tia for more tips, prompts, and reflection exercises. And if you want a deeper dive into communicating about pleasure and boundaries, send an email to courses at Tia Conway, LCSW, for more information about my Pleasure 101 workshop launching soon. Thank you for being here, for listening, for getting curious with me. Whether it's a question, a story, or a truth, still finding words, this space is for you. Whatever it is, you don't have to hold it alone. Ask, share, confess. We're in this together. And if you've got something on your heart, drop it anonymously using the link in the show notes or over on Instagram. If this episode moved you, helped you, or made you feel seen, share it with a friend, leave a rating, or drop a comment. Your support helps this space grow. Follow me on Instagram and Threads at Pleasure and Peace with Tia for more. Until next time, remember, I've got you and you've got this. Talk to y'all soon.